Good afternoon, beautiful people. I am starting a bit later than I wanted to. I'm going to do the double zip gear bag. Okay. Now this one you can do in 3 sizes. So I'm just going to do the small for today. And just remember that, let me just wondering if I show that, if that would make, okay, down here, I can do this. There's a piece of paper. Because this down here is pretty benign. It's not really going to make a difference. All right, when you buy any patterns that have more than one sizing, you need to be mindful when you're cutting out your stuff. Okay, so the first one is always for the small, then you go the medium, then you go the large. Okay, and that's how her patterns always run. So the first lot of measurements is for one size, the next, and so on. Alrighty, so for this one, what we need, and I'm doing this one a tad different to how it is in the pattern. Not a lot, just the handle. So I'll get all my bits and bobs here. Okay, so we are going to need, once you've quilted everything, okay, and this is not, if you do the small, it's a relatively manageable piece. If you cut like the bigger piece, quilt it, and then cut it down, it's relatively manageable, I will say, for the small size. So this here is the main body of the bag. Okay, that's going to be my lining, and that is the outside, doing Slytherin. And then you want to cut your flat piece. And just FYI, you do cover this again. Okay, so this here, this is my lining, but this part here in particular will not be seen once we finish the bag, because once we attach the zippers, we then put another piece over it, a facing, so this here is covered. Just in case, you know, you're wanting, like you're cutting it out and you're sort of fussy cutting it a bit because you want this piece seen when you pull the flap back, just be mindful that it won't be. So if you're going to fussy cut the fabric you want to put on this. Okay, and then we're going to cut out pocket A. This is a quilted pocket on the outside of the bag. And then the last 2 pieces to cut is just our ends. Okay, so we have 2 ends. Alrighty. And then what I did is I went out and I cut my handle. Now, it's typically not done with like the Soft and Stable. It's done with your webbing, and then you cover it with your coordinating fabric. But I've made a couple of these now, and I wanted to try something different. Yeah, so I do have this one here. Okay, and this one. Now this is going to show you a bit of the size comparisons. All right, this is the small, so it's going to be, I'll do it this way because I don't want to show that. I'll take it off. Okay, so that is the small. compared to the medium. Compared to the large. All right. So I don't know if you can sort of see much. I'm trying to show you a bit of a size comparison. All right, so this one here, there's the handle. Okay, now this is done with the stabilizer and then covered. Same as this one. And they're just they change. They can they're not meant to stretch, but they sort of can. All right. I just thought I wanted to do something a little bit different. I just wanted to see how it would go with this handle. So what I did is, because it's not meant to be like this, I bound it. All right. And I'm going to have it that way out. So I just got in and I cut 2 little pieces of binding, and I put binding on that. But if you do it per pattern, you'll need a piece of stabilizer, and then you'll need to cut your piece of fabric from your coordinating material to cover it like we do with normal handles. Okay, and then from your coordinating fabric, you need to cut a pocket A binding. You'll need to cut your flat facing, and you'll need to cut 3 pieces of binding for pocket B. Okay, and just so this here, I think it's referred to as pocket A. I'll just grab the, yeah, okay. So this here is pocket A, all right? So it's there. Okay, that's pocket A. This is pocket B. And here is where your binding goes. And then you have some pockets on the insides as well, mesh ones. And there. All right. Alrighty, so what I did is I cut 2 extra pieces of binding for the mesh pockets on the inside. I always like to bind them. As you know, I do as per pattern 98% of the time. Most of the time I will add extra bindings to a pattern, because it's for the aesthetics look of it. That's why I do that. So then with your zippers, you're going to need to cut 4. Okay. You need, like I said, your piece of strapping for your handle. You'll need to cut 3 pieces of mesh for your mesh pockets. Now my outside one is going to be a tad smaller. It was meant to be an extra ½ inch bigger, but I only had enough of this mesh to cut 3 of the same size, so I chose to do that and lose out ½ an inch. I'm not overly bothered by ½ an inch. And then you want to cut a little piece of Velcro, hook and loop tape. You want to cut a piece for your grab tab. Now this piece here, again, is not as big as what the measurements give, because sort of this is what I had without cutting into my main part of my fabric again, and I folded it and I'm like, oh, that's plenty big enough, and it's not even to the actual size, so that there is more than ample. And you're going to want 2 pieces of fold over elastic and 4 zip pulls. Hardware is very minimal on this bag, and I chose my Harry Potter zipper pulls, and that's the sorting hat on the top, and then this is a reference for the 9 3/4 platform. So yeah, thought that matched very well. All right. Oh, and your binding. Out of your coordinating fabric too. So this bag is actually going to hold my binding, because I'm finding that I have all these bits left over, and I'm throwing them in one of my other bags, and it's like, this is getting a bit beyond a joke now. I've got so much extra binding left over, and it's taking up room. This is just the extra binding left over from, jab myself with a pen, from 3 projects. So, and I've got a lot more in there, and it's taking up room in my I think it's catch-all caddy, and it's annoying me. So I thought, right, I want to do this video, I'll just do the small, and this is what's going to be going in it. Okay. So next you want to cut, if you've got a piece of long zipper tape, on page 3 it'll tell you the sizes to cut your zippers into. So you want to do that. If you want to make the fabric zip pulls, then you make that now also. Because I use the novelty pulls, I don't never do the fabric ones. Then you're going to want to get in and make your bias binding. And then it's prepare the grab tab. So where did it go? Here it is here. So what you want to do with your grab tab is fold it in half. Either give it a good squish with your finger to make a crease, or hit it with an iron, totally up to you. And then open it out and fold it the opposite way. Give it a good creasing. Then open it out, and you want to bring your 2 sides in to that middle crease you just made. Okay, really push them down, make them stay, and then fold that in half. And because of the crease before, it's going to fold nicely for you. And then that's it. Now you can take it to your machine if you would like, and sew your sides, just to put a nice top stitching on that. If that's the case, I'd do a 1/4 inch, and then we're just going to sit that aside. You'll have to excuse me, guys, I do have a mild cold. My throat is killing me. That's why it took me a bit longer to get going, because my head was so stuffy and blocked and everything, and I was just feeling a bit overwhelmed because I got so much I got to get done this week, and it took me a little bit. I was nearly going to get in and move all this, because I got to move all this. I got my new sewing machine coming at the end of the week, and I got to move all this out into the lounge room, and this is my homemade cutting table, and underneath is where I store all my vinyl and faux leather. So it's going to be a big job, and I was nearly going to do that, and I thought, no, I'll quickly get this video done first. So after the grab tab, you're going to want to do your handle, and then we're going to go onto our pockets. All right, so we're going to want to get pocket A, the binding, and one of our zippers. So first up we want our pocket A, our zipper. Now this is one of the smaller ones, and our binding. We just want to attach our zipper to our pocket, so face down. Have a bit of overhang on the edges. Now face down, just clip it down. Take it to the machine and sew it down. Once you sew it down, then bend it back like that. And then sew that down again, and that will give you a top stitching, so be mindful of what colour you got in your bobbin, okay? And then we just want to bind the top of the zipper. So if you felt confident enough, you could bind your zipper first, but then just make sure when you add it to the pocket, you get it so it lines up with here, okay? And it's not like that. All right, so it's entirely up to you how you want to go about that, but we'll do that. So here is the pocket with the zipper on, okay? Then I sewed it down on the back, and I just wanted to show a bit more in detail how I do my binding when I bind the zip tape and when I bind mesh. All right, so I fold it in half, and when I do binding like this, I do hit it with the iron. Gives me a nice good crease there. And then I put 2 pieces of double-sided tape on either side of the crease. So I have one under here, and that's the second one. And then I just use the tip of my stiletto and that pulls off the tape for me. Then I'll fold that into the center. And I fold that in half again. And then I'll take it over, line it up, take it to the machine and sew it. And provided you're followed that fold line, you're going to get even amounts either side of your zip tape. So when you put it on and you take it to the machine, you can sew it in one hit, and it's going to fall out the same on the other side, and it's going to give you a nice clean crisp edge. So there we have it, that one's finished. So when you bind the top edge of your zipper tape, then the last thing to do is to measure and trim the height down, and you always measure from this point here along the edge of your zipper tape down, trim from the bottom of the pocket, okay? So pocket A is done, we can set that aside for now. Next up we want pocket B, our mesh pocket, our zipper tape and our 3 bindings, okay? And all we need to do is bind the top and bottom of the mesh, and then the top of that like that. So I'm going to get in and take these 2 and fold them in half and iron them, and then put down my double-sided tape, and then that will just make them a bit easier to do, because once I've creased them, put them in like I showed you before, like so. Then when you fold them up, this just slots in neatly like that, same as how I do the zipper tape. And then you just fold it over, sew it all as one. Gives a beautiful finish. So I'll get in and I'll just go and prepare all the bindings. So I bound the mesh, as you can see, inside the binding. So I have it folded like that. And I sit the mesh inside. Then I put it over. Then I stitch it down. Okay? See that? Then I sew it to the zipper tape. I was debating doing it because I'm using the custom printed zipper tape and it matches the Harry Potter fabric. But I was sort of two minds, but in saying that, I think that the pop is going to look nice. So that's why I ended up doing it. Sorry about that, everybody. So yeah, the pop is what I was going for, so I put it on. So once you have it on the bottom and you attach it to your zipper tape, bind the top, and then before you bind the bottom, measure it, because it's got to be trimmed to a height. So measure it. If it's over the measurement that you'll find on page 5, trim it down, then put the last binding on it. Okay, just like so. Here it is, all done. Edges bound, zipper pull is on. Don't trim the edges just yet. Okay, all right, we'll set that aside. Then you're going to need the 2 remaining mesh pockets, your 2 pieces of elastic, and for mine, in my case, the 2 extra pieces of binding. And we just want to attach the fold over elastic, the binding to both of those, and then we can sit them aside. Next up, you're going to need your 2 zippers, your flap, your tab, and your Velcro, hook and loop, as well as a rounding ruler. And you need to look at your flap, okay? If you have directional print, all right. Mine's not really directional, but I really don't want it that way on mine, okay? So I would like it so this is up. So if you do have like a directional print, make sure the up part of it is on the left, okay? So instead of it being like that and me saying, well, that, you know, that's up, it's not to me, because the Slytherin is upside down. So because I want the Slytherin up the right way, it needs to be on the left, okay? On this side, on page 5, you've got 3 measurements. You want to measure from the bottom up. So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay. Mark them down. Now they will be dependent on what size you're making, of course. All right. Then you want to attach your zipper. Okay. Now have the end of your zipper tape in line with that line there, all right? You see that? And then next what we're going to do is we're going to make this part here go along this edge here. All right. You see that? So I just pulled it like so. And you want to have the teeth now in line with the middle line. Okay? Take that to your sewing machine and attach it. You can sew up your zipper tape, and then when you get close to here, bend it. Okay? It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. It's entirely up to you, but that's how you need to have it, like so. Okay? And we need to do that for both sides. So I'll just put a clip on there. It'll move, but yeah. Okay, so I'll put this one on. All I'll do is I'll just put one clip on. Okay, and then I just put a thumb under, finger on the top, and twist. And there you have it, okay? Lines up beautifully. Now you can have it so that pleat comes this way if you like. It's entirely up to you. So in that case, you would bring it that way. Okay. like that. Okay, I'm going to go sew those down and come back. So there we have it. And a little hint on this one here, it's easier if you start sewing anywhere below that last mark. So I started sewing it about here and I sewed it down, then tucked it, and I came and I just sewed over that little bit there, and it just makes it a bit easier to make this here stay in place. That's all, but that's what it should look like now. Okay, then what we want to do is grab our facing, page 6. There's a measurement. You want to measure from this edge here in and draw a line down, and then depending on what size, again, you need to measure from here down and then from the bottom up. Okay, I just drew 2 marks. Grab your glue, grab your Velcro. You want the scratchy one. I just stick a bit of glue on the back. Push it down. Okay. And then I'll take it to the machine and I'll sew around that. So once that is on, we want to get it. Take your facing and the Velcro. I'll just get a clip. So I just clipped the other sides of the zipper tape there out of the way. And then with the Velcro face down at this end, put it down, take it to your machine and sew down the 3 edges. Okay, so once you've sewn it down, then you want to take your circular ruler and curve the 2 corners there, trim it away, and then just seal it down again. And then I'm just going to take my zigzag scissors and cut away the curved part there, because that will make it sit better, just like so. Okay, that will sit so much better now when I turn it out. So now what we want to do is take this and turn it right side out. There it is, turned right side out. Now it is not the easiest thing to do, and you're going to want to iron it because it likes to concave in like this when you first turn it. Okay, and that's because of your edging there, your seam allowance. So once you've turned it right side out and you've got it sitting good, then take it to your machine and top stitch all the way around. Okay, now here we have it top stitched down. Once you do that, then get your grab tab, place it down and just stitch 1/8 across. Alrighty, once you do that, we can set that aside. Then you want to get your end A, and there are 2 measurements on page 7 from the top down. You want to draw one, and from the top down another one. Now there's also 2 measurements from the side in on each side, one from this side and one from this side. I didn't bother doing those because what I did is I aligned my ruler so that measurement and my ruler stopped there, and I drew the line from there across and stopped where the other measurement would come into, and so I made that line there X amount long, and then I did the same for this one. It's just less marks to get rid of essentially in the end. Then what you want to do is grab your Velcro and align it, the top part of your Velcro, with the bottom of that top line. Okay, let me just see. Okay, so you wanna put it like that. Okay, and then sew all 4 sides down twice. Be mindful of your bobbin cotton. Then what you want to do is get your handle and line it up below that line also. Okay, and on your handle it wants you to put 2 marks X amount in from the edge and just draw a line down, and they're the guidelines for you to sew a box on here on each end. So my handle looks a bit different to what you would have because I use the double-sided foam. So once that's done, then all you need to do is take your circular ruler and round all 4 corners, okay, on both, and then you can set them aside. Then the last thing to do is on your body bag body, if you have a directional fabric, then mark the top, okay, and then what we want to do is bottom of page 7, it will give you a measurement to mark from the top down, and then another measurement also to put, and then you want to flip it and put the same measurements on here and here. Now just remember, make sure you are conscious of what size you're making and you get the correct measurement, okay? Don't forget that. So if you're doing the small, it's always the first, the middle is the next one, and the large is the one after that. All right, so once you've done that, flip to your lining fabric, and on page 8 it will give you some measurements to mark from the top down. I just put a couple of dashes. I didn't feel the need to mark all the way across. And then also there is another one here. Thought if I do it in red it'd make it easier to see for you guys, but okay, so 2 lines, and then flip it and do the same on the other end, okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get pocket C and D, which are our 2 mesh pockets. and we want to line them up. Now make sure, okay, that you put, I'm just going to find my dress. Make sure you put the double-sided elastic, fold over elastic, sorry I had a mental blank then, facing the ends, okay? What I mean by that is, like, on this end it's going to be facing the top, and on this end it's going to be facing the bottom. All right, so I bound mine. So what I do is I lined my bound edges up to those marks, and then I would pin it, purely because mesh is tricky, and it likes to shift on you. And because of that, that's the reason why when I work with mesh, if there's an opportunity to bind it, I will. You know, even if we're sticking it on a pocket, I will always bind the top of it before I sew it to the zipper tape or the zipper. It just makes it so much easier to work with. It really does. It takes away the dread of working with it because of how it shifts and everything else. So I bind it and then I sew it to the zipper tape, and it might be one extra step, but in all honesty it's well worth it. It really is. So I've got them pinned down. Might just put one there. And then once you've got them both down, you just want to sew the 3 edges, okay? So down this side, across the bottom, and then up the other side, doing 1/8 seam allowance, all right? And do the same on this end here when you've got them lined up. And then once you've done that, trim your edges, okay? So I curved the ends, and then both pockets have been sewn down. I also sewed in some divisions, and when I came along, I came down this side along the bottom, and then I just came up and back, up and back, up, and finished off. And I did the same on this end. Okay, then you want to flip to the front and pick which pocket you want where, essentially. So if you have like a directional fabric, all right, so you want to pick whether you want this one on the front or the back. So I put mine on the back because this is my up or top. So it will sit like that. So I just lined it up. You line up the top of your pocket with that top line. And I started here. And I sewed across the top. Move your slide as you need. I should have left it off and put it on when I got down here, but I forgot and put it on early. And then continue along, come down your side, go across the bottom, and then up. And the reason we put these ones on first is that way they won't interfere with our front pockets, because our front pockets essentially go over the top. So you'll see here's the stitching for the top, and here's the stitching for the bottom here. So these ones here fit nicely in the middle. Okay, don't forget to trim your excess from the inside pockets. So when you do the outside one here now, just trim your excess off. Then we're going to flip to here, and we're going to put down our other pocket A. So with pocket A, what you want to do is lay your pocket down, line it up with the bottom line, and have it so the lining side is up and that the zipper is facing the opposite end of your bag. You sew along there. Align your edges also here. Okay, I put down some wonder clips just to hold it there. And then sew along the bottom. I then take it over to the iron and I push it up and I just pressed it along here with the iron. The heat just makes it sit a bit better down there. And then we'll go to the machine and start here and sew all the way along, down, and then on the bottom here sew a 1/4 inch seam across there. So sew 1/8 on 3 sides and a 1/4 inch along the bottom. Okay, there it is, all sewn down. Then what we want to do is take our flap, put it down on our edge like we do normally, but make sure that this lines up. And then I clipped it here. I put 2 clips on it to hold it, and then I sewed down the zipper tape, as you can see, and then I sewed it again, which gave it a top stitch. So make sure you are mindful of your bobbin thread. Now, to sew this side to here, all right, and also make sure that if you have a directional print, it is the right way round, okay, before you sew it down. Now, this one here to this one, when doing this part, that's not going to be too bad, okay? Sewing that down. Be mindful of your pull. Move it out of the way as you need. When it comes time to sewing it down again to enclose your raw edge, that's when it's going to be a bit more cumbersome. So what I recommend is sewing across the end of your zipper tape to create a stop, okay, and then pull this out of the way, all the way down there. And that is how I'm actually going to sew this on. What I will do is this. Get my pen. Where's my little ruler here? I will lay it down. I'll make sure these here are lined up, okay? And then I'll just take something that I can use to draw a line with, and I'll make sure it is flush with the edge here, okay? And I'll mark it straight like that. Very similar to what we do with the clamp to mark the tape. Open it, then bring your edge in, I would clip this down. Then line it up, okay? So you line that up to the edge, put a clip on it, and then clip the rest of it. go to the machine and sew it down. Okay, it's going to be easier to sew it from this end. All right, so I would sew it down like that, and then with this out of the way still, it's easier then to fold it over to stitch down your zipper tape again to enclose your raw edges. Okay, so once you have that sewn on, what you want to do next is to get your end pieces and find your centers and mark them. Okay, I use a pen, a bit easier than a pin. The pin, when you put it in, because the stuff, when you fold it, you see how it sort of goes like that, and even if you get it and really bring it like that, when you put the pin in, it still just doesn't stay straight with all that there. So I find it easier, I just measure it, mark the halfway on each end, and then do the same with your bag. Okay, get your bag. Easiest way is to go this way first. All right, line up here, bring it down, mark it, follow it up, mark it. Okay, then do the same to the other side, and then we want to take our end. This is end B, the one without the Velcro or the handle, and then you just line up your marks. So there's my mark, and here's my other mark. I want my flat end down on my clip, because this part is going to be on the bed of the machine like that. All right. Oh, I've got to trim up the ends of my tape too. And then all you want to do is then make the rest of this fit in like so, and put your clips on. Okay, once you finish clipping it, then take it to the machine. That way down on your machine. Don't be afraid to manhandle and mush this down. You know, really mush it or whatever. If you have to, it will come back no problems. Right? So you stick that under, sew it all the way around. And then we're going to do the same to this end. Okay? We will line up our points. Make sure you put your Velcro at the top. All right? The only thing is, you only have to match up 3 points, the sides and the end. You can match this point too, but when you sew, you're only sewing from here around. Okay? You don't sew across this part here. So you're only sewing around like that on this end here. Okay, so there we go. There's one end. Now, it's not the easiest of things to do, especially when you're trying to get it where your bindings and all that are here. Okay. When you've got it on the bed of your machine like that, and you're trying to bend this to get it down, to make that sit around like this to sew it is not the easiest of things to do. A couple of little tips that I have found help a lot. One, hemostats. When you've got it under your bed, and it's not just this pattern, it's a lot of the patterns, as you see here, see how this is not wanting to come down? It's because of all the bulk in here, and especially when you got it under the machine. Sorry for bonking you guys. It's harder to try and maneuver that because you really don't have two hands, because you have the foot here, and you know you're trying to manipulate it. It's not easy. Okay, so one thing I have found that works well is the hemostats. If this here goes off where it shouldn't, or you're wanting to hold it, what I do is I put it between. Make sure you grab both your fabrics, okay? So you're not like, if you haven't sealed it here, so you don't go, oh, mine's all sealed down. Oh, there we go. So you don't go like this, and this here gets hung up back there, or something like that, okay? So you grab it, and you can pull it, and you can hold it right until you get up close to it. Another thing is your stiletto. I have found this here is brilliant. Okay, your tip is great for holding the fabric there. I'll zoom you guys in. Okay, your tip is really good for pulling it over and holding it there. But then if you're coming around to say here, okay, and you're wanting to flatten it down, obviously it's going to be a bit easier because it's under the needle. Okay, you can use this here to flatten it, because it's hard to explain, but it like can crease it in because of the angle there. So I find it really good to make, because obviously that's when it's under there, it's not bending for you, so you can see, use it to push it out of the way, and it comes really in handy, that. Okay, and then you use your tip to hold and go around. So after you finish wrestling with it, it should look like that. Okay, that is how it'll look. Now it's up to you. You can go and bind that end now. You know, it's totally finished, so I would bind it, and then that way it's totally done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And then move on to this one and line it up like you did the other one, and we'll do that. So I'll quickly bind that, and then we'll come back to this one. All right, lovelies, here we go. It is all done. Not the easiest of things to do. It looks like it would be easy, but yeah, it's the trying to get it underneath this part of your machine. That is the hardest part of this bag, is trying to get the bag under there. That's the most difficult thing. Other than that, it's a super easy pattern to do, this one. I will say a little hint though, when binding it, it is easiest to have this open, and when you have it on there, to have your hand in here, and you use your hand to push out, well, you're able to bend and manipulate it, because otherwise if you're trying to bend this when this is shut, it just doesn't want to go. It really doesn't. It does not want to play well with you, and it's not the easiest of things to do. But if you put your hand inside and manipulate it with your fingers, the difference is remarkable. By all means, try both ways. Try it with the zipper shut, and then take my little tip and open it and put your hand inside and manipulate it that way, and tell me which way you think is the easiest to do it. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah, some people, I think they would be pleasantly surprised, to be honest. I really do. So we'll just turn it the right side out. Manipulate that binding in there. Sometimes to get the bags to conform to shape, it is a good idea to wonder clip them overnight, the edges here, to make them just come in, or iron them. Hit them with the iron is another good one. All right, there we go. Beautiful. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. That little pop of colour on the end. I think it turned out very well. Alrighty guys, well I'll leave it there and get in and edit this and upload it. I still have to do the video on the giveaway. I really have been not too well. I've got a cold or a flu, whatever it is, I'm not quite sure. And just the constant stuffiness in the head and the head pounding and the sore throat and everything. And on top of that, I have so much work I've got to get done. I just haven't had 2 hot minutes to think about how I'm going to do it. But I will get in and get that done today also and get it uploaded. Then I have to pull this all apart and move all my rolls of vinyl, which I have under here, which there is a lot of it. Mass amounts of vinyl under there. I've got to move all that out into what should be the lounge room, but we don't use it as a lounge room, to make way for the new industrial I'm getting on Saturday, which it's now what is that, 2:33 a.m. Friday morning, and it's coming Saturday lunchtime, so it's gonna go here. So I need to remove this and really organize in here, because this corner here annoys me majorly. It's sort of hard to access and it's a mess because I sort of put things there to get them out of my way. So I have a lot of work in here I've got to do to make room for that machine to go here. So I do, and I'm getting that from Echidna Sewing over at Capalaba. So they are awesome. That's where I got my other one from. And this one, the other one, I use for when I do the faux leather and the vinyl bags. This one, I'm going to have it set up with the Resont thread with the cotton to be able to make how can I put it, sort of the material bags, not the handbags and the faux leather bags and all that. So with the two different tensile strengths in the, I use a polyester thread, which is a lot denser to the cotton. Trying to adjust the tensions and all that is a right raw annoying pain in the backside. So I just haven't. That's why I'm still using the domestic. Don't get me wrong, these bags can be done on a domestic. I love the industrial because I love how it's set into the table. That is the one feature of them that I absolutely adore. And making the bags on the domestic is annoying me. But I've got another surprise coming up for you guys too. This is another bag I'm working on. And it is made out of the faux leather. And it's the Easy Does It, but with a twist. So you guys will see what I do to it when I finish it and upload it, which I hope to get done on the weekend after I get all this done. In between, yeah, I hope to get it all done. Anyway, I'll leave yous to it. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you like the bag. I do. I think it turned out really, really, really well. So I do. Yeah. Drop me a comment when you do it. I would love it. Drop me a comment. Let me know. Try one end with the bag closed. Doing it that way when you bind it. And then try the other end with the flap open, with the hand in there, being able to manipulate it that way when you bind it. Oh, and this is how it looks on the end with your binding, because as you know, you can't, bind across this like you do down here, right? So what you do is you fold it over. So you bind it like you would normally here. And then when you go to do it here, you're just coming over the top of the zipper tape and you're just sewing it to the flap there and coming back around like that, okay? So it's normal binding, you just don't have a double layer here. That's all there is. That's the only difference, is you don't have that double layer, and then that just tucks back down inside like that, okay? So it really is a beautiful bag. Yeah, frustrating. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me. Like I said a million times by now, I'm going to go and catch you on the next one. Bye.